strong deities. These were goddesses and gods. The goddess Ashtaroth, many of you have heard of, the whole tie-in with the sexual identity of Diana and Venus and Astarte and all these versions of this female goddess. It was a sex goddess. Ashtaroth was symbolized by a crescent moon. And it was quite interesting that their deity, this deity was believed to have fallen from heaven. And she fell in the form of a huge egg, and she fell into the river Euphrates. And as a result, fish gathered around and pushed the egg onto shore. And then doves, according to the fable, doves landed on top of it and hatched out the fertility goddess, the goddess of sensuality, the goddess of sex, this goddess that was worshipped by the pagans. Now, it's interesting because this is just one of many names that's applied to her. Probably one of the ones that we Americans associate her most by is Ishtar. And the reason why is because every year churches celebrate a commemoration of her. Christian churches, even sad to say. We call it Easter, which is derivative of that. And if you have ever wondered what in the world does colored eggs and little bunny rabbits got to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ? Well, it has absolutely nothing to do with it. But it's a spring goddess. This is the time in which she came. And if you don't understand the parallel between the bunny rabbit, you could probably ask Hugh Hefner, the Playboy Foundation. Their logo is the bunny rabbit. And the fertility symbol of the rabbit and the egg, which is a symbol of fertility, and coloring those eggs went back thousands of years before today, thousands of years before Christ. And it was a pagan god that was worshipped, a deity, a sex goddess, and I'll show you why this is important later on. And then the next one was Milcom. Now this one was a male deity. Many times you'll read where it talks about Moloch. Moloch is just another version of this same god. Baal, if you read where it talks about Baal. This is a deity where they would worship, and it came in various ways. And one of the most important things of this male god is that they would give their babies in sacrifice to them. And they would sacrifice them by, for example, Jeremiah refers to it, and I think Ezekiel refers to it, where it says that they would make their children pass through the fire and the Moloch. And this deity, they've actually uncovered archaeological finds where this pagan god has his arms outstretched, and they would heat, and usually it had a large stomach area that was shaped like a bowl. And they would heat up this area so that the arms would glow with the heat, and they would throw their babies into the arms of Moloch, and there they would burn their children alive. Now, this is a practice that's referred to several times in the Old Testament. Now, keep in mind, as we get into this tonight, this is what God said: I don't want your leaders to go that direction. Now, with that all said, and just remember that, we'll come back to this in a little bit, I want to show you something that is really amazing. The number I'm getting ready to show you only appears one other time in the entire Word of God. Now, that's really interesting because what you're about to see has a really bizarre connection to the Antichrist. I want you to read this with me here in 1 Kings chapter 10. It says, now the weight of the gold. Now remember, it talked about the fact that he went after the horses, after women. Then it talks about the prosperity, the gold. The weight of the gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 606 talents of gold. Now that, for those of you who don't know, a score is 20, so 600, 320, and 6, that's 666. Now, verse 24 says, all the earth sought to Solomon. Now, sometimes you're reading verses like this and you'll just skip over it, and it doesn't dawn on you that there's an amazing parallel. Solomon himself was the one who just said this a minute ago. That which is about to come to pass has already happened before. It's as if this trend goes on. Why is that so important? It's because the only other time in the Bible that number shows up in that exact format is when we're introduced to the antichrist system. Actually, this system is set in vogue by the second beast, the false prophet. And it says he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might, now help me with these next three words, that no man might what? Buy or sell. Now, why is that important to us? Because the issue that's going to catapult the Antichrist in the leadership is going to be the exchange. It's going to be monetarily. It's going to have to be something that's going to tie in with buying and selling. That no man might buy or sell, save or except he had the mark, that's one thing, or the name of the beast, that's another thing, and the number of his name, that's a third thing. You won't be able to buy or sell unless you have one of these three things. You say, well, John, I know what that is. That's about the mark of the beast. No. Guess what? Some people misread this passage. There's three things it says here. It says that no man might buy or sell unless he had the mark or the name or the number of his name. We don't know what the mark of the beast is. We don't even know the name of the beast. We know the number of his name because the next verse says, here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. Not the mark of the beast. For it is the number of the man, and his number is 666. Now notice it didn't say that's the mark. It said it's the number of his name. Now, sometimes people pick up stuff and they hear somebody else say it and then they say it and everybody else starts believing, and they've gone around for years saying the mark of the beast is 666. No, it's not. Read it in your own Bible. The last few verses in Revelation 13, it's not that. We don't know what the mark of the beast is. We don't even know his name, but we do know the number of his name, and it just so happens to be the exact same number that we're reading about here under the leadership of Solomon. Now, why is all this important? Well, because I want to tell you tonight, I believe with all of my heart that the stage is being set in the world of the economy for the Antichrist. Obviously, certain things have to go in the motion before a man could stand up and say, everybody, we're going to do a whole new system. Do you understand how drastic of a measure it would take to get the whole world to fall under this? So there's something that's going to have to happen before that. It's just like this. When you go to a concert or to a play or whatever, and I'm sure you guys have even done it here at the church here, where you've put on some kind of show of some type, some type of play or whatever. There's lots of time spent in preparation to get the stage ready, to set the stage. Well, that's what I'm going to share with you tonight, because I believe that the stage is being set. The Antichrist can't come till a few things happen first. We talked about one of them last week. But let me just share something with you that's happened just within the last few weeks that indicates something very interesting. For example, last month, just the day before the G8 met there in Italy, Pope Benedict made an astonishing statement. I want to read this to you. Quote, "There is a strongly felt need for a reform of the United Nations organization, and likewise of economic institutions in international finance, so that the concept of the family of nations can acquire real teeth. There is an urgent need for a true world political authority." I want you to look at that for a second and let that sink into your mind for a moment. What you're hearing right there is just a little tiny bit of the preparation, what I'm talking about. Here is, as we mentioned earlier, about the UN. The United Nations plays a major role in world governments.